Dr. Breazeal for a while, and the first time I had the opportunity to hear her and see her via virtual when we were in Manila, and she came on with one of the best presentations I have seen about AI. But what struck me was about that was seeing the younger preschool kids in that video who looked like young college interns and students working collaboratively together and having fun. And so when I saw that, I was like, Kelly, do you think we can kind of get her here in New York quickly, like tomorrow, to present to what we have here? Because we now have pre-K here in New York City as well. And we want to make sure that they're also not part of the forgotten ones here as we move forward into this millennium of equity and equality. But the presentation I saw of her of creating a thought process, putting together an idea, a new paradigm of making fun and education for all of our students here was a whirlwind. And so it is an honor and a pleasure to introduce here the distinguished professor from MIT, Dr. Cynthia Breazeal. Please give her a nice round of applause. Your show, come on up.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Oh, you second one, so wonderful. Academics don't do that. All right, I have my presentation up. Can we switch over? I see it here. Okay, now I see it here. Wonderful, so thank you for that terrific introduction. I'm gonna give you kind of a, I'm sure as you've been talking about AI in education and future of work, some of this you've probably heard, but then I want to spend some time really discussing a number of the innovative approaches and programs that we've been doing at MIT, particularly around AI literacy for K-12 students. And I will say that we are actively engaging teachers and schools all around the world right now around this. So this is an invitation to engage as well. So think of this as kind of like a whirlwind introduction of the kinds of opportunities we've been developing. But we really do want to have impact, and that means working with people like you. So again, just kind of context, and I'm sure you've been discussing this. AI is one of these critical transformative technologies because it's disrupting many different industries and markets and applications. So it's called kind of like a general purpose technology, like electricity and so forth, and that is pervasiveness of what it's influencing today. So this slide just throws up just a range of application domains that AI is being actively used in, from healthcare and agriculture, criminal justice, arts and expression, autonomous vehicles, education, et cetera, et cetera. So just to say, it is transforming everything. And so of course the question is, what does this mean for how we prepare our young people for this future? And in many cases for jobs that don't even exist yet. So, when I was in graduate school, the World Wide Web was just kind of starting to get going, and Google didn't even exist yet in my earlier days of graduate school. And if you wanted to design a web page, you had to be a computer scientist. You had to kind of code in this esoteric language that was called HTML in order to create a website. And lo and behold, over time, the tools and the technologies became intuitive enough that you didn't have to be a computer scientist to design web pages. And now there's a whole career path for web designers, right? So one example in terms of when the web came about, you've been hearing about ChatGPT, right? Now, what does that look like today? Well, now there's this new skill called prompt engineering. How do you interface with these large language models to get them to do useful tasks for you? So, with generative AI, I would argue like this is a story that's continuing. So there's a lot of expectation among, and this is a slide with quotes, basically speaking to the fact that many industries are actively integrating AI tools and technologies into their methods and processes. Tremendous opportunities of growth of jobs. In various reports that I've looked at, projections anywhere from net increase of over 50 million jobs in AI worldwide. And if you look at the number of people trained with those skills today, it's in the hundreds of thousands. So just to give you the perspective of the growth and the opportunity that's already been articulated, the challenge we have is how do we prepare many, many, many more young people for these jobs and make sure it's diverse and inclusive. I'm sure it's no secret to you, I mean, the field of AI, it's not particularly diverse or inclusive right now. So tremendous opportunity. We really want to see much greater equity. So that's the challenge that lies before us. We've seen, of course, the reason why AI has become kind of so pervasive is because it has led to real value generation, whether you want to call that economic value generation or opportunity, but there have been some unintended consequences, right? Kind of some downsides and some risks. So I would say for the first time since I've been, in this field for over, 20 years now, there has such a palpable awareness of the ethical implications now of this technology as we've been discovering. If we just train it on data sets representative of society, for instance, as it is today, it can encode the current biases of society, and therefore the applications can privilege certain groups over others and disadvantage certain groups. So much more awareness about that, and so this is just to say when we think about how to prepare our young people, whether they're going to be users of AI systems or designers of AI systems, they need to be responsible designers. They need to think about the societal implications of what they do, and we need to give them the tools and methods to do that. So again, I'm just kind of giving you the picture of like how we educate needs not just to be a kind of siloed, just computer science push, but a much more holistic, multidisciplinary push, because AI is influencing everything. So seeing all of this, and I'm going to give you a little preamble in a bit of how I came into forming this MIT-wide initiative called RAISE. RAISE stands for Responsible AI for Social Empowerment and Education. It's between the Media Lab, MIT Open Learning, which is the organization with MIT that brings all of our materials to the world, many of them for free, and the Schwarzman College of Computing, which was a new college designed specifically about AI across disciplines. So it is, again, this initiative that spans all across MIT, which is really exciting to see. And our mission is to really think about how can we advance equity and learning and education, leveraging AI by empowering young people. We call this computational action, learning through making impact, because it's inspiring to young people. It becomes much more relevant and palpable to young people when they feel they can harness the technology to make positive change for themselves and for their community. And in the long run, we want people to be able to have those opportunities to be successful and prosperous in this era of AI when we are increasingly going to be collaborating with intelligent machines. So that's the mission, and we have a big effort in K-12 in that regard. So we just have become aware that it's no longer suitable for young people to be digitally literate. They need to be AI literate. So these are kind of the four, I would say, kind of impact areas that RAISE focuses on. So AI augmented learning, understandably, is how AI can help people learn. How can we learn with AI? We do work in workforce upskilling and AI education because obviously there's a whole workforce out there that wants to get upskilled into these new technologies. As I mentioned, we have a big focus. This is our biggest focus is on K-12 AI literacy. And with all of that, we have an explicit inclusive and equitable impact mission. It's very kind of front of our mind as we think about how we design these technologies and who we work with as we do that. So I'm going to first kind of present a little example of the work that we've been doing on AI augmented learning, and then the rest of the talk I'll focus on our work on K-12 AI literacy. So, and this is kind of the story of how I got into the AI literacy arena. So in my own work, so I'm known for this technology called social robots. So imagine Star Wars, imagine R2-D2 and C-3PO. That was really my childhood inspiration. And so, R2-D2 and C-3PO weren't just these kind of like utilitarian machines that did useful stuff. They were full-fledged characters. They had emotions. They collaborated with people to like save the galaxy. It's like that was kind of the vision that shaped my idea of what a robot could be, what our relationships with robots could be, as kind of collaborative, empathetic, social others that really helped us, helpful companions that really helped us make the world a better place. That was my vision. So that's my work. We have been applying the technology of social robots, and again, this is, it's a very multidisciplinary field spanning artificial intelligence, obviously, robotics, psychology and human factors, and even arts and design. So it is inherently a multidisciplinary field. As we advanced the computational abilities of robots to be able to interact with people, we started to think about what are key impact domains where this could make a real difference. And so one of the areas we started to pursue, and this has been going on for like 10 years now, was early childhood learning. Now, why early childhood learning? Well, we already knew from all the data and all the economic analysis that is a critical time to intervene if your goal is educational equity, right? If children don't even start kindergarten ready to learn, we know it's very, very difficult, very, very expensive for them to catch up. So is there a way that we can not replace teachers, but augment teachers, augment the kinds of learning that can happen not only in schools, but after school and even at home, engaging parents and so forth, with this new kind of technology that you can envision as essentially being a playful practice partner, kind of like your Disney sidekick that a child can play with, not as a tutor, but actually as a peer-like learning companion, where the robot is actually personalizing and adapting the content to promote the child's learning and development. But from the child's perspective, they're just having fun. And young children, right, they're not going to learn, as we now know, sitting behind a Zoom call or typing, right? They learn through interaction and play, and you want them to be socially connected, not only to each other, but we want to engage their emotions and their social competence, even I think when they interact with a learning experience. So that was why we identified early childhood learning as kind of an important and fascinating application domain for social robots. You all know the Bloom 2 Sigma effect, the promise of personalized mentoring, tutoring, go at your own pace, proceeding towards mastery as a very desirable way of supporting children's learning. And if you could do it through technology, it's potentially scalable and affordable. So we know that story, right? That's been a story that's also been going on for decades. We wanted to apply it to early literacy. And as we were starting to look at literacy rates, obviously through standardized tests, even through high school, I can tell you I was very surprised that even in the United States, our literacy rates at proficiency were so low. And if you think about the percentage of kids leaving high school who can read proficiently, the pool of students who can even pursue STEM careers is very, very small, right? So how do we give, again, more opportunity to get kids off on the right foot so that those opportunities later are still open to them? So that's why we started looking a lot at early literacy. So again, this is to say the way children learn is different than the way high schoolers can learn with computers and technology. So we were designing the robot, again, to be this playful playmate, where the nature of the relationship and interaction was as important as the pedagogical approach and the pedagogical materials, right? We're trying to think very holistically about it. And again, not to replace teachers, but to think about it as a supplementary experience that's highly engaging and enjoyable for children. So how do you go about doing this? So this is just kind of giving you a sense of our own development process. We developed a whole suite of early literacy games, and I'm going to see some videos of some. One of the key activities our robots do with young children is dialogic storytelling. Now, storytelling, as you know, the best way to do it is not just reading, but engaging in that back and forth, right? And so designing a robot that can engage in this holistic experience as like two children, two peers might engage and support one another in active listening and telling and reacting and so forth. I can tell you that's a tremendous challenge in artificial intelligence. So this was kind of our North Star. So how do we do this? Well, so we started by bringing lots of kids into our lab and recording how they tell stories with one another and capturing a lot of data about it, and then using that to train models and then putting those models in robots, and then seeing if that robot could engage in the same kind of style and supportive interaction as two children. So this is just a video to kind of bring that to life for you a little bit.
Broke the window, and then it ran through school and peeked inside. He saw classmates.
Lots of and lots of kids applying, AI technologies to track facial expressions, what kids are saying, how they're changing it, using that to train a variety of machine learning models to basically kind of encode the human kind of social code into a social robot, putting that model into a robot, putting that robot in the same situation, and seeing how it can respond and support now to the child who's the main storyteller, and the robot is that active listener who's encouraging and asking questions and so forth. So that just kind of gives you a sense of what our approach has been. Now kind of flash forward to start to see this in practice. Again, as I mentioned, we designed a whole bunch of literacy educational games. This particular game is called Word Quest. It's kind of like I Spy, where there's a challenge word that's given by the tablet, and the robot and the child take turns. It's a collaborative game to try to score points together. So the child takes a turn, then the robot takes a turn, et cetera. So, the challenge word is given. In this video, you'll see the word is lavender. And there's a whole scene that the child and the robot, because the robot can do all the activities the child can in the game, panning through the scene trying to identify things that match the challenge word. In this case, it's lavender. And so in this video, what I want you to pay attention to is just the interaction and how different this is from how kids learn with apps and ebooks and so forth. It is a fundamentally different kind of interaction. And then I'm going to highlight something that I think is important and fascinating in that dynamic between the two. So they're playing the game. First, it's the girl's turn. The robot is learning a model through its experience and interacting with her, when it should be kind of the more knowledgeable role, giving information, et cetera, when it should motivate, or even when it might ask questions to give the child a chance to reinforce what they know. So again, the robot has a whole model about this pedagogical behavior that's under the hood. All right, so here's the video.
What are we trying to find? We are trying to find lavender color stuff.
Okay.
The
word was lavender.
Yes. And what is lavender though?
So she doesn't quite know what the word means. It's familiar though.
Girl.
She makes a choice. The girl's wearing a colored dress, but it's not lavender.
I'm sure you will do better next time.
The robot encourages her.
I believe in you.
Says, I believe in you. Now it's the robot's turn. She's a little upset. You can tell that she got it wrong, but when that robot gives her that affiliation gesture, she comes right back into the interaction.
Yes.
It's the robot's turn, but she is fully engaged, right? So the robot's making a choice. You can see all of that social interaction going on. The robot says, I think this is, and she says back to the robot, I believe in you. Really interesting. Okay, so anyway, she gets it right. The robot now says this is what lavender means, et cetera, et cetera. So just to, again, to highlight, this is a very different kind of interaction. We have run so many randomized controlled trials working with schools in the Boston area, in Atlanta, Georgia, particularly for kids attending schools with high English language learning populations, at-risk schools. You can see this video giving you a sense of how children in real school settings are interacting with the robots. The punchline is we have been able to show that between looking at a baseline, which is just classroom data without a robot, this robot that engages in a fixed curriculum, so no personalization, versus a robot that has additional personalization under the hood, as I mentioned, we see higher engagement measurements through facial expression, through body posture, through galvanic skin response, and wearable technologies of the personalized robot. So we go through a lot of rigorous data and analysis to try to understand if the algorithms are helping to support children's learning and engagement better. When we look at actual vocabulary scores, so like one of the measures of this dialogic storytelling or these kind of vocabulary learning games is our children acquiring the challenge vocabulary, targeted vocabulary in these games. We are seeing that they learn the most with a personalized robot. And then this is also really important. So we also look at measuring the closeness of the relationship, how children report on the relational aspects of how they interact with the robot on a scale from like a toaster, a very kind of just mechanistic thing, all the way to like, my best friend, right? And how they kind of position the robot on that spectrum. What we have found is that the children who rate the robot higher on kind of that relationship is correlated with higher learning outcomes. And now that might not be surprising to you because you know the better the relationship a child has with their teacher or their friend, they're going to have higher learning outcomes. What's interesting here is we're seeing that now with the robot, right? The robot is able to show that same kind of dynamic. And we see that relationship is even stronger with the personalization. So we're starting to see this kind of interaction between the content, relationship, the social relationship, and personalization. So again, it's promising and it's intriguing, and we're continuing to kind of push on this work. Now we have generative AI, and you've learned about ChatGPT, right? So the thing that's fascinating about, well, so there's a couple things that are fascinating about ChatGPT. First of all, one of the things we've heard over and over and over again is what children really want to do is have much richer dialogues with the robot. They want to ask the robot lots of questions. They don't just want the robot asking them questions, they want to ask the robot questions. In the past, it's been more limited, in terms of prior technologies and the nature of the dialogue children can have with the robot. With ChatGPT, it has opened up, and it's not literally ChatGPT, it's actually it's the large language model that we have wrapped a lot of our software around to basically take that text-based interaction and turn it into a multimodal social interaction with pedagogical behaviors, because as you know, ChatGPT is not a pedagogical agent, right? So we're designing pedagogical behaviors, leveraging these large language models. So this is just a demo now of what dialogic storytelling is starting to look like with a robot that now can harness these large language models. So the story here is Three Little Pigs.
Hi, people. Can we
So
read
again, this is
Three
a
Little
demo.
Pigs together?
Starts
Hi
by
there.
just
I'd love to
telling
read
the
it with
story,
you. Shall we
right,
get started?
of Three Little Pigs. So this isn't like, I would
Yes.
say,
Can you
a
read it to
true
me?
interactive dialogic storytelling through telling the
Once
story,
upon
but
a
it's showing
time,
the back and
an old
forth.
South sent her three
So
little
he's
pigs
telling the
out
story.
into the world to seek their fortune. Now be sure to write,
ChatGPT knows the story
she
of Three
said.
Little Pigs.
And remember that. I love you.
And now here's the kinds of questions, right, or the
I'm
interaction.
Jibo, and I'm here to help you read and understand this story. Let's start with the first pig. Can you tell me what he built his house out of?
I think it's made out of cakes.
So he thinks it's made out of cakes.
That sounds delicious.
Sounds delicious. I can tell you the
Unfortunately,
robot
I
couldn't have
don't
done
think
that
that's
before.
right.
A very
The
kind
first
of
pig
reasonable
built his house
response,
out of
but the
straw.
robot brings it right back to, I think, it was made out of a different material.
What would you use to build your house?
Now you can ask the
That's
robot a
an interesting
question,
I think I'd build my house out of solar
and
panels
through
so
large
that I
language
can
models,
power my
he was
home
like,
with
I'd build it out of
renewable
solar
energy.
panels. So again, a
Wow,
really
that's very
fascinating
smart.
response
Thank
that's
you.
generated
So,
through these
what do you
technologies.
think the third little pig did that saved him
And
and
now-
his brothers from the big bad wolf?
Now giving hints, right? So again,
I
just
don't
to say,
remember.
these
Can you
large
give me a
language
hint?
models are kind of propelling
Sure.
what we can
The
do
third
now
little pig
with
used
these
some-
interventions and these technologies. And just to highlight, we all know we're in this very different kind of post-COVID world, and I think these kinds of technologies could potentially really help close the gap if they could be deployed, at great enough scale. But we're seeing really promising, I would say, early results. So anyway, just to say, this is kind of the lead-in to what I've started to appreciate was critical about AI literacy, because what I was starting to see was this really interesting technology, an extremely arguably persuasive technology. When you think about education, it can shape children's behaviors, attitudes, et cetera, more and more as we are engaging around applications in health and adults of all ages and children, we were finding that people, they didn't understand how these technologies worked. And of course, we know that if you can persuade and shape behaviors and learning the way that we were trying to do for positive things, the flip side, people could also be manipulated, right? So the risk and the ethics of it. So we started to want to really pursue AI literacy, where especially with these social robots, there's this new kind of relationship forming where there's attributes of a supportive ally, a human-like quality, attributes of a cool connected tool, technology, but also these attributes of a companion animal, the supportive, non-judgmental sense. So again, there's this emerging kind of relationship I think we're starting to see with AI. One of the biggest concerns I've heard over time is, will these social robots, will AI replace our human relationships, et cetera, I can tell you even young children are not confused. They know this robot is not like their dog, and they know this robot is not like their friends, it's not like their family members. It's a new kind of relationship. So anyway, we're moving into this fascinating, I think, new place. But anyway, this motivated saying, people, not only children, but really people need to become AI literate, because we knew it was going into all kinds of online apps and social media and so forth. So that's why we started a really big effort on teaching kids and empowering teachers to teach kids about AI literacy, not only the technical aspects, but also what it means for digital citizenship and digital literacy, how it's transforming these things. So this has been the kind of guiding light where we want our young people to grow up being able to use AI responsibly, to understand enough of how it works that they can do that. As they grow up and are voting citizens, to be able to have an informed voice of how they want AI used in society. I'm sure you've been following, there's a lot of discussion now around AI regulation and so forth. And then we really want to foster a far more ethical and inclusive future workforce. So these are kind of our big objectives with our RAISE initiative. And we're taking a very different approach from the ground up on how we approach it. And that, again, it is multidisciplinary, and it's really thinking holistically of how do you want to prepare young people for this future. So yes, there's core, still, computational thinking literacies that children need to understand, but I would argue that's important for how they use their digital tools anyway, right? There is AI literacy and ethics curriculum. This is now a global movement being designed. There are actually 5 big ideas of AI that have been articulated through a global academic community. And a lot of our curriculum is being designed to support those. And with this effort, this is the AI for K-12 effort, there are starting to be kind of learning objectives associated with it for kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. So that is kind of a guiding light of our curricular aspect. So the 5 ideas are machine perceptions, how machines can perceive and understand the world around them, decision making and representation, machine learning, natural human interaction with people, and the one in the center is societal implications. So our curriculum speaks to all 5 of those big ideas. And then we also want children to be responsible human-centered designers. So we hear a lot of discussion in the media about AI is going to replace jobs, et cetera, et cetera. I can tell you that's not going to happen unless that's how we intentionally want to design these technologies. If we want to design these technologies to augment people and support our creativity and our productivity and our problem solving, that's what we'll build, right? So we want young people to be educated in the design process and the responsible ethical design process. So that's kind of the overarching principles in our curriculum. How we deliver it is highly experiential. There's a lot of hands-on learning. There's a lot of critical thinking and group discussion. Where in kind of every kind of beat of the curriculum, we want to introduce and demystify kind of how the technology works at a grade appropriate level. We then want students to experience it. Sometimes they might use their computer to go online and try an application that we've identified, or we've built an application for them to play around with so they kind of see what's possible when they interact with and use these technologies in kind of a creative set of activities and tasks. Then we want them to think about the societal implications of it, and we will give real examples of both positive and negative examples of that technology so they can, again, think critically about it. And then we invite them to make something with it of their own design. So that's their own creativity. What do you want to make with this? And we support that as well. So again, it's a creative, hands-on, critical thinking, multidisciplinary approach. At MIT, we are, advancing AI in a lot of ways, our own algorithms, our own tools, and our technologies. And so what we have been doing is we've been taking these state-of-the-art tools of AI and putting them into intuitive platforms, coding platforms, so that kids can actually make stuff with the real stuff, right? Not simplified versions, but like the actual AI technologies that professionals and adults use when they make applications. So we have, as you know, probably in the Media Lab, inventor of Scratch. That's an open language platform as well, open programming language platform. We have our own custom version of a Scratch-like environment, block-based coding environment, that we invite kids to be able to use different kinds of machine learning algorithms and technologies to make games, interactive activities with Scratch-like coding language. We have MIT App Inventor, which is the same thing, a block-based coding language to develop working mobile applications. And that's really interesting too, because now with a mobile app, other people can use what they've designed. So that's a pathway to kind of like impact, right? And we talked about this impact-driven learning approach that we've been pursuing. So kids can create working, applications for Android, web apps, social robots, all kinds of things. One of the big things we're trying to explore in our approach, again, is this idea of impact-driven learning, where we want to educate young people on computational action. So this is like entrepreneurial thinking, entrepreneurial problem solving baked in to this process, where they learn things like product design as well. So like this is all about you through your lived experience, through your community, there is a problem or an opportunity you want to try to make happen by harnessing AI. You work in a team, You identify that problem, you prototype a solution, you think through the market analysis, you do the kind of the whole entrepreneurial thinking piece of that, and then you communicate your solution and your prototype and evaluate that to your peers to try to convince them of your idea and your solution. So we train young people about that whole process as well, which leads to ideas about this is how you actually make things in the real world. This is how you might do a startup. So again, by seeding those ideas and those experiences, when students are still in K-12, I think it's going to create whole new possibility pathways for young people as they think about what's next. Community college, university, entering the workforce, whatever. So that's kind of just the big picture kind of philosophy or approach that we've taken. I'm now going to just kind of dig deep into kind of two particular kind of flagship programs that we've been doing within RAISE, but I want to just give you a sense on this slide that we've been developing like literally hundreds of hours of curriculum in very different kinds of formats. So I'm going to focus today on Day of AI, which is kind of our first introductory experience that we're getting to spread all over the world at even for us, a surprising pace. I'm going to talk about Future Makers, which is a summer program we run, which is a more intensive 6-week talent pipeline development. It's like technical program. We also do semester-long curriculum, so we worked with Project STEM. Their CS Explorations 2 is a unit on AI. It's a semester-long curriculum. They're starting to train teachers on this as well, so I invite you to look that up. But Project STEM is the company, so we do semester-long. And then through our Project RICA, we have a large grant to develop a multi-year curriculum, K through 12, that's all project-based. Each module is like 2 to 3 months where kids really engage in this process. So again, we have a wide range of curriculum and opportunities. So with that, I want to again focus on these two programs, starting with Day of AI. So this is all about preparing teachers to bring AI to their students in classroom context. So as opposed to our after-school programs, this is saying if you really want to reach all students, you really need to get it into the classroom itself. So it's for K-12. The vision is AI is for everyone. Any teacher can teach it. It is really more about how AI is shaping digital literacy and digital citizenship. And I'll give you a little highlight of the wide range of curriculum that we've designed. These are short format curriculum broken up into like 45-minute lessons, ranging from anywhere from 4 hours to 8 hours. Now that might be spread out across multiple class sessions, but we call it a day because you can kind of fit it into a day if you did it from beginning to end. It is completely free. We have asynchronous training videos so that teachers can use that for their professional development. We work with a STEM education company called i2 Learning, that if there's a desire to have a synchronous online training session, they will run that too, and it's all free. It is all designed by the principles I've shared with you, multidisciplinary, project-based learning, critical thinking, all of that, but in these kind of bite-sized, kind of cohesive modules. And we want equity, right? So there's a wide range of activities from curricula and things that don't require any computer at all to those where kids are actively coding, to other activities where maybe they just need a computer connected to the internet and a web browser. So we try to design a wide range of activities that no matter who you are as a teacher, your comfort with technology, your kind of resourcedness around technology, there is a pathway around these materials for you to be able to introduce AI to your students. And then we also have a careers in AI module that features diverse people, diverse industries, diverse roles, so that children can appreciate, like AI is, chances are when they grow up, they're probably going to be using AI in some way if they're not going to be potentially designers of them. So these are the kind of big thematic concepts that we want kind of teachers and students to come away with the Day of AI. AI is for everyone, right? This is something that kids are using every day already. We want them to be, again, informed and knowledgeable about it. It needs to be designed responsibly, so we want them to think through the societal implications, and in design activities, we want them to use the curriculum on ethical design that they apply to do that. And then, they're our future, right? So we want to have them leave feeling empowered, feeling that this is a world that's open to them, and that, again, through our range of curriculum, there's always more. You can go deeper. There's lots of curriculum that you can pull from. So our kind of philosophy and how the curriculum is laid out, if you've never done a Day of AI, there's a what is AI kind of intro that kind of wraps, kids' heads around, what is AI versus just an algorithm or just a device that doesn't have AI in it. And then there are thematic units, and again, they're designed by grade band. So there's K2, there's grades 3 through 5, there's middle school 6 through 8, there's high school 9 through 12, and there's a high school AP Computer Science. So we've designed curriculum for all of these grade bands. And I can tell you that we've kind of designed them with a grade band in mind, but I think a lot of these materials, like teachers may actually decide to say that upper elementary curriculum might actually be great for my middle schooler. So like there's a lot of kind of teacher discretion in terms of like what the topics are that you think would be most interesting to your students. So it's not like strict grade band is what I'm saying. Like there's ability to kind of mix and match. And then we end with the careers in AI to again give young people a sense of where all of this could be going. So we are constantly expanding our curriculum. In 2022 was the first year we launched Day of AI, and these were the first 4 topics we addressed. So for upper elementary, we did machine learning, teachable machines, and we introduced them the idea of bias and how bias can be encoded into these technologies and some responsible design experience around that. For middle school, actually this was even before ChatGPT, we did AI in social media, particularly around arts and expression, using generative AI to generate visuals and text and so forth. So we were very early on the scene with introducing young people to generative AI. For high school, we looked at recommender engines in social media and online, and for high school computer science, we did App Inventor, where kids could create mobile apps using machine vision. So this was just where we started. The second year, which was just this year, we added a bunch, like all of us, we added a bunch of new modules. As we heard, because we were seeing all the conversation around ChatGPT and what are the implications for education, we created a ChatGPT curriculum for kindergarten all the way through 12th grade. I can tell you that this became our most downloaded curriculum this year. We added a K-12, a K2 unit. We worked with ISTE on the design of that, so we expanded to introduce K2. The White House Office of Technology and Policy just released their blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights. We did a whole curriculum around AI and policy for kids, for them to be able to discuss these topics. It doesn't require any technology. So that's all about kind of, again, policy and civics around AI. We introduced AI in gaming. We introduced a number of units around data science and data activism, how you can leverage data to make a positive change in your life. And one of the things we did for high school is we took all college admissions data. This was before the Supreme Court ruling came down, because we wanted kids to analyze the data for themselves and to have an opinion on what they thought about fair admission policies and practices. So again, that's the theme you hear. We are not telling kids what to think. We are giving them the tools to think with and the data to think with. And so what do they come up with? Even in the ChatGPT module, we invited a conversation with teachers and students after they learned about ChatGPT and did activities with it about what is the appropriate use of ChatGPT in their classroom, right? So we are trying to inspire and make possible conversations about these technologies. Just a quick slide on the Careers in AI video module, just so you can see many different domains, applications, diverse people. This is the message you want young people to understand. There are people who they can identify with doing really great stuff, using AI, developing AI tools and technologies. So we spend a lot of attention to our professional development for Day of AI. So again, it's free. There's online asynchronous training videos, and then people can also sign up for a synchronous online training session. All the materials are online. It's dayofai.org. You can enter, if you register. We just want to know kind of like who's using the curriculum, roughly where in the country. You can download these materials for free. There's teacher guides, there's student-facing materials, and there's a lot of supplementary teacher information so that teachers can kind of wrap their heads around AI, so you can feel comfortable leading discussions around it. When we started this, we assumed we'd have a lot of high school interest in these curriculum. To our surprise, we've seen pretty uniform downloading of our curriculum across all grade bands. So this is really interesting. This again was a surprise to us. We're doing a lot of research and assessment and iteration around these materials. So these are just 2 quick slides just to give you a sense that we're getting a lot of positive reviews from teachers and how well prepared they have felt in these materials. We encourage teachers to adapt these materials to their classrooms as they see appropriate. We really believe in teacher agency in these materials. And then, when you have teachers think about like the responsible, ethical use of AI among their students, there's also, there's a perception that students are very engaged in these topics and are definitely learning a lot around responsible use of AI for their students as well. So positive signals, a lot of work to be done, but we wrap research around everything that we do. We interview teachers. We really want to hear what teachers think about these materials. Dave AI is growing like crazy all over the world. This year we had over 7,000 educators from 114 countries offer Dave AI curriculum to their students. The Day of AI this year was May 18th. The Day of AI itself is a day of sharing. Teachers can offer the curriculum whenever they want during the school year. Again, we really want to empower teachers. But the day itself is just where they can post on social media and share what they've done with their students. We host local events as well, and we invite other people, even in other countries, to host their celebration events of the Day of AI. We did 2 in the Boston area, one that was really cool when we did the AI Bill of Rights curriculum. There's the Edward Kennedy Institute in Boston, which is literally a one-to-one replica of the Senate floor, where students came in and played the role of senators of each state, and they debated the policy of the AI Blueprint Bill of Rights. So super engaging, super immersive. So again, we try to be very creative in how we engage students around celebration events in the Day of AI. Since then, the Edward Kennedy Institute has taken our curriculum. They're offering it as part of their programming all year round, which is great to see. We are starting to engage in international collaborators. We mentioned I was recently at the Philippines. We have a collaborator who's translated our materials into Spanish. They've translated the website into Spanish, and this is just showing that only in 3 months, they already have over like 3,000 teachers signing up for the Spanish version. So multiple countries, anyway. So just to say, we are looking for ways to collaborate to expand the impact. Localization and translation of these materials to different regional contexts is really interesting. Even in the United States, and we of course designed this for an educational lens, a United States lens, but it could be different applications, different interests in different regions of the countries. So we are really interested in working with teachers to better localize and adapt any of these activities to be even more relevant and salient to the students in those regions. So just to say, we are very, very open. It's all Creative Commons. It is all about empowering you as educators, and you can create things and share them back, and we will distribute them, right? So it is a very collaborative movement that we're trying to create. It's not like, here's a curriculum, use it. It's like, let's make it together and make it great together. That's the philosophy. So that's kind of the punchline. We're really looking at growing our teacher community. We're looking at recruiting other regional people all around the world to help bring it at scale. We think we can reach 1 million students in a couple years at the current rate that we're going. And we're continually kind of, not only recruiting, teachers in school districts, but obviously also other kind of supporters for the work. So anyway, that's Day of AI. I think if you just wanted to get started with something, Day of AI, I think, again, it's the kind of gentle introduction to this world, but it's really, really, I think it's really great stuff, and very much through the MIT philosophy. That's how we teach our own students, right? Through hands-on learning, through making, through thinking about societal implications. So I want to spend some time now shifting gears and talking about, this is a summer program that we run. It's called Future Makers. And this is really, it is a technical entrepreneurial experience that's really about nurturing diverse talent pipelines. So this is about students who are really thinking about pursuing technical careers, potentially, in AI, or creating AI, creating solutions with AI. And it's, again, really focusing on diverse talent pipelines, because I think that is a huge area of opportunity. So it's a 6-week, it's a pretty high-touch program that we call a Create-a-thon. There's 4 weeks of technical and leadership curriculum. So again, we think about holistic preparation of the students. They learn real practical skills using the actual tools that professionals use when they build these kinds of tools and technologies. And then in the final 2 weeks, students form teams, and they do this Create-a-thon, where it's basically an entrepreneurial competition. So they learn about computational action, around the entrepreneurial design process. They create an entrepreneurial pitch, and they pitch it to a panel of expert judges for some pretty cool prizes that I'll tell you about. So again, this is really cultivating not only technical skills, but entrepreneurial thinking and prototyping for impact skills in young people. So these are all the areas that we look at. So there's professional skills development, there's communication skills, there's leadership skills, there's mentoring support. We recruit mentors from graduate school and undergraduate schools to serve as the mentors for these students' teams. This program is for middle school, high school, and undergraduate students. And a lot of that is also, we really like the idea of cross-grade band teams, where there's a lot of internal peer-to-peer mentoring as well as kind of more advanced peer mentoring. So we spend a lot of time preparing and mentoring our mentors around how you engage in supporting young people as they're going through these tools and technologies, right? So there's a big mentorship component and there's a big role modeling component. We also have a whole bunch of webinars that kids hear from industry professionals. So again, tying it to real world applications where they can ask questions. So anyway, there's a lot of great skills and preparation for whatever comes next for these young people, whether it's applying for an internship, applying for colleges, applying for prize competitions, scholarships, you name it. Our hope is that through doing this program, it's going to strengthen their applications. So we do this every year. We are literally running the Future Makers program right now. We are continually trying to improve our diversity measures. We're getting better and better. If you have students that you know who you think would be great for this program, let them know about it, because we are constantly trying to work with schools and nonprofits to send us young people who they think would really benefit from this program. This is a slide just showing you there's 2 tracks in the program right now. There's a deep learning track where they actually learn how to build deep learning models and apply it to an application. There's an AI and app inventor track. So this is just a slide to say kids are learning real software and real skills and building these solutions. And I'm going to tell you a little about some of the projects that kids have developed through the program, because they're really inspiring. And again, this is just, again, to give you a highlight of the kinds of actual technical skills kids are learning around mobile app development and AI. So again, they're building real stuff with this program. These are just some of the projects that I just want to highlight, because they're really amazing what young people present and have modeled and have prototyped by the end of the program. So this is the Create-a-thon portion where there's, again, these 2 tracks. One team, for instance, developed a facial asymmetry recognition model, and they put it in a web app, and the application was to look at facial asymmetry as a potential early indicator of stroke. And one of the young women in the team was inspired to work on this problem because she had a family member who suffered from this. So kids are really pulling from their own experience when they design these solutions, and they demo a working prototype of the system. They train their own data on their model, and they put it all in the pitch competition to present their work. We had another team where and again, this is an online program by design. We recruit kids from all across the country, so they work remotely with one another. And with that, they're learning remote collaboration skills. But this was another team who had members from California. Again, this was a couple years ago where wildfires were a real issue. They trained a model to predict the likelihood of wildfires in your area in this other application. And they put it again in a whole web app where people could put in the zip code and get an estimate of how likely a wildfire is in their area. So again, lived experience being applied to a real working solution. In the app inventor track, we had a team look at mental health. Mental health, I can tell you, is a huge topic for young people today. This was a mobile app designed for children and their parents to try to broach challenging and difficult topics around mental health, where the young people reason it's hard to have face-to-face conversations with their parents even about these topics, but if you could start that through a mobile app, then maybe that will help ease the transition into a real face-to-face conversation. So again, designed by young people, looking at their peers, looking at their lived experience, what is the solution that makes sense for them? So again, these are all selected, the problems are identified by students, the mentors are really just facilitating it, they build these solutions, they demo them in front of the pitch competition. It's really inspiring. We again are wrapping research in all of this. We're looking at learning gains, growth gains on a lot of different dimensions. We're seeing positive results in gains around these, more work to be done, but a lot of things that inspire us are the testimonials that are coming not only from the students who go through the program, but the mentors also. Mentors find this to be a deeply impactful, rewarding program as much as the young people. And this year, or last year's winners, we invited to present at one of the leading ed tech conferences. I don't know how many of you know this conference, ASU GSV. We did a full expense paid trip for those winning teams to have a special session just to themselves to do their pitch at that conference. And that was, like, again, another really rewarding, really important opportunity for these young people to bring awareness to what they're doing, but also to be able to communicate, to show that people care about what they're doing and their ideas. So we try to look for really meaningful ways to help again, propel kids along. What's the next step? What's the next thing that's going to help them on their journey? So we're very mindful and attentive of those opportunities. Okay, so I'm going to transition to kind of the last part of the talk, which is generative AI, and kind of how is that changing how we need to think about preparing young people for the future in computational thinking itself. Because I'm sure many of you have heard not only, is ChatGPT able to do a lot of language tasks, but now it can generate software. And so when we think about even in the AI profession, what is this future going to be with when people can collaborate to write code with AI, and what are their skills and practices they're going to need for that future? So this is a work that we're pursuing right now for K-12 using the MIT App Inventor application. Again, it's a block-based coding language, and we're bringing ChatGPT and collaborative coding into this so that children can actually create mobile apps through conversation. So when you think about the impact that block-based coding like Scratch had on opening up software coding to the world, to people who didn't necessarily see themselves as software developers, think about what it's going to mean when they can code with their voice and how that's going to further open up the opportunity of creating software solutions through now conversation. So App Inventor, just to highlight, is a huge platform. There are millions of people around the world who already create mobile apps with App Inventor. So it is a high impact platform that you can get these apps on Android and Apple iOS stores, and other people can use them. So this is a real vehicle for computational action. It's not just a little web app that your friends can kind of play with in a sandbox. Like, it's real working stuff. And so that's a big theme of this, again, of Raise and of this work, is computational action. How can you empower kids to make something that a community can use so they can see the impact that they've had on making things better for those they care about? So just a quick example of that. So there's a great program called Technovation. They work very closely with MIT App Inventor. It's a girls, young women focused program around mobile app development. And so this is just one winning team, just to give you, again, and there's a number of really compelling projects, but this is highlighting a team of girls, middle school age girls in India, who live in one of the largest slums in India. So this is to say, when we say it's for everyone, we mean it's for everyone, right? Anyone can use these tools and make an impact. So what did they do? So in their communities, there's often these young girls, these young women, who need to go to the community kind of water access center to bring water back to their families. And they may spend 3 hours a day on this task. And you can imagine when they get to the community center, sometimes there's a lot of upset and disagreement around who gets access and when and so forth. So they created a scheduling app that runs on Android. And again, when we talk about countries like India, it's not iOS that's everywhere, it's Android phones that are everywhere, where their community and girls like them started using this app to schedule their time to go to the community water center. And this made a big difference in their community. So again, when we say this stuff is for everyone, we mean it's for everyone. Young people can make a real difference. And I can tell you, I think young people want to make a real difference. So this is about empowering them. Okay, so computational action, just again to tell you, is like kids can really do real stuff that can make a big difference. Now let's talk about this generative AI thing, right? So I'm going to show you a demo of new enhancements so that you can create a mobile app with your voice.
We all know coding a software application is complex and requires time and experience. But what if instead anyone could make an app simply by talking to the computer? With Aptly, brought to you by the MIT App Inventor team, all you need to do is speak. It's as simple as describing what you want your app to do. Tell App Inventor, I want to make an app.
Please give me a name for the app you want to make.
Call the app Translate.
Please describe the app you want to make.
Make an app that translates English text into one of 5 selected languages when a button is pressed.
Let me see what I can make for you.
Then, both the app name and description are populated into the code generator window. And with just the click of a button, my natural language description is transformed into a fully functional app. Just like any App Inventor app, I can navigate to the block screen and make any customizations or changes I would like. In fact, editing apps with Aptly is simple. Just describe the change you want to make, like adding Japanese to the list of languages, and Aptly will update the designer and blocks editor accordingly. I can now translate from English to Spanish with ease. Building off the low-code, no-code movement, Aptly fundamentally changes the idea of what it means to create an app. Through the development of Aptly for App Inventor, we hope to enable and inspire anyone and everyone to make apps, regardless of their coding experience. So, what will you create with Aptly?
So again, just a sneak peek of new innovations, new things that I think are going to basically fundamentally shape how do we think about educating our young people now about computational thinking, and what are the skills that they're going to need for the future when you can start working with applications like this, and who's going to see themselves now as capable of creating sophisticated solutions with these technologies. It's going to be way more than the computer science students, I can tell you that. So again, research is always wrapped around everything that we do. The design of innovative curriculum is wrapped around everything that we do, and the design of interactive tools, innovative tools to empower young people is wrapped around everything that we do. So again, that's just a sneak peek. So I'm sure many of you have heard, seen in the media, this is all great and exciting. Generative AI and large language models have issues, right? There needs to be a lot of innovation, I would say kind of guardrails kind of built around it to make it suitable for any real world application, especially around education for young people. So you've heard probably about it, like generative AI, I mean, part and parcel of the algorithm of generating kind of some new output is it can hallucinate, and when it does that, sometimes it just gets stuff wrong, like real inaccuracies. So this is just an example that's kind of very personal to me. You know, you saw the Jibo robot in the early childhood example. I asked ChatGPT who owns the technical IP of Jibo, and it just got it completely wrong, but it did it in a way that sounded extremely credible. And so this is kind of a risk that we have. It's like if you don't know and you read what ChatGPT or these large language models produce, it can just say something completely made up, but it seems very reasonable. So it's like you got to be, this is part of the AI literacy. You got to be very aware, and you got to check and double check around how you use these technologies. I'm sure many of you saw this article from the New York Times when Bing Chat first came out. The reporter got it to say some really inappropriate things. There's a lot of additional safeguarding that's being built around these models, but there's bias encoded in these models, right? It's trained on the internet. There is bias encoded in the internet, and these models suffer from that too. So just, you gotta, you know, these are areas of opportunities for innovation, but there are, right now, you gotta be very aware that these are limitations and risks of the model. And then there's a whole kind of like societal implication of it. So I was showing you videos, again, of young kids interacting with social robots and clearly forming this kind of social connection to an intelligent social robot. We've seen articles with ChatGPT of people having long conversations and feeling like romantic connections to these chatbots. It's like, there's a lot of new territory we need to like, educate people around and have kind of, informed conversations, because it's kind of a Wild West. So anyway, to say there are a lot of opportunities, but there are a lot of limitations. I love this quote from Eric Brynjolfsson, who's at Stanford University. He makes the point, and this is absolutely the philosophy of everything that we do. This is not about replacing people. This is not about machines being creative instead of us. This is not about machines writing our code instead of us thinking about what's important. We need to design these technologies so that they augment what we do. We are creative, we are ethical, we have the values. There are problems with our lived experience that we understand how to solve them. That is not to be pushed off onto these technologies. They're tools. They're really provocative, interesting tools. But how we design those tools is an intentional decision too, right? So yes, we could design these tools to try to replace people, but that would be a big mistake. We need to design these tools to augment us. So again, in this quote, the set of tasks that humans and machines can do together is undoubtedly much larger than those that humans can do alone or machines can do alone. So augmentation, that's what we need to understand. So I'm going to end the talk here, but the punchline is I think now is the time, and I'm going to say for you as educators, you are all part of this also, to really think about the role that AI or generative AI should play in education and how we feel young people need to be prepared for this future. I'm giving you kind of our philosophy and take on it from MIT, but we are very much in an active conversation with educators around the world around that because, again, you are a critical piece of this team. So thank you so much. Great.
Wow.
Yeah.
Please, let's give another round of applause for that outstanding presentation this morning here. Are there any questions from the audience? Anyone have any questions in terms of what they saw here? Thinking about where you go back to your home base of how this could be aptly used here. Anyone have any questions?
In the back there?
Yes. Can we get a mic, please? Thank you.
Good morning.
There? Okay. So thank you for this amazing presentation. I am Dr. Maria Ortiz from Newark, New Jersey. And some of the questions that I am going through, and I was talking to some of the folks yesterday, how are we preparing to have teachers? Because that's the problem that we're having. We have some math teachers, we have some science teachers, we have very few computer science teachers, and the folks that we find that are in this field of engineering and coding, they don't choose teaching as a profession. So that's a challenge that we're having across the board. So I wonder if in the center at MIT and some places, while they are offering some professional development, and some of our teachers that are visiting and doing this kind of professional preparation, but what are we doing to respond to teacher preparation programs across the nation that are specifics to this particular field? Is the center doing something, or maybe not the center, but do you know of anyone? Because that's the shortage that we're having. Is not just finding teachers, because that's already a difficult era, but also specifically teachers that are skilled and can make this fun for our students.
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So I think this is partly why the Day of AI curriculum has been so popular, because as you know, it's positioned as any teacher can teach this. It's not about deep technical stuff about AI, it's about AI is shaping what it means to be digitally literate and become a digital citizen. So we've had art teachers present Day of AI. We've had teachers who are in science. We had an entrepreneurial teacher. We had special needs teachers. We have all kinds of teachers offering the Day of AI curriculum. And if, again, through the range of curriculum that I put up there, part of that was just to show you there were things that were very related to art and creativity. There were things that were very related to civics. There were things that were definitely related more to computer science. But it's a whole range. So part of, I guess, my answer to you is we want to have all teachers feel empowered to be able to bring these ideas and these concepts to their students in the way they feel is appropriate, versus saying it's only for the computer science teachers or only for the technology teachers. It's for all teachers. And as I mentioned, we've been thinking about the technical resourcing or comfort level that's needed to offer it. So we have a whole range of activities, some that don't require any technology at all, right? So anyway, we've been trying to be very strategic in designing this in a way, and it's very kind of configurable, honestly. I mean, teachers can kind of pick these lessons and kind of mix and match them as well. So our hope is that really any teacher feels there's some path or some activities that they can offer something meaningful to the students around AI through that Day of AI program. We've done a lot of, again, online. When we did this program the first time, we offered a lot of free synchronous teacher professional development, and what we found is most teachers actually wanted asynchronous materials. So we went through, and through all our curriculum, we have asynchronous videos, and then we offer synchronous training for those who want it. So to your point, I think there's a lot more that can be done and needs to be done just for teacher professional development in general. I think this is, the Day of AI I think it's a good place to start, and I think how we get more teachers deeper into this, like if it's semester-long curriculum, whatever, I think that's definitely an opportunity. But I feel we have, at least to this program, something that is actually very accessible, and that's what we're hearing when we do a lot of our research. There's a lot of Title I schools who have been, we do a lot of outreach specifically to Title I schools. There's a lot of Title I schools who've been using our curriculum as well and have had success with it. So anyway, your point is very important. I think that's how we've been trying to approach what's the first step. And the hope is if teachers have a great experience with it and their students have a great experience with it, they'll be like, what's more? And that's the work we have to do. It's like we want to engage more with, again, schools, school districts, like, because we want to learn from you as well, how to really help crack the nut to make this much more accessible and at scale.